Hello 12G and 12W, welcome back to our art lessons online. I hope everyone's been having a very fun week. This week in our art lessons we are going to be starting some paper mache. So we're going to be getting a little bit messy. I want everyone to check with an adult at home, either mum, dad or someone who's at home with you, that it's okay if you do paper mache. Have a look through the slides, have a look at the things that you'll need. I let you know last week the things that you would need. Ask if it's okay if you use flour and water and some oil and a newspaper, and it's okay to make that little bit of a mess either in the kitchen, maybe the laundry, maybe if it's a nice day you can go outside. If your family is not okay with you doing paper mache, do not stress, there is another project in the links for you to do. So what you will need this week is some flour and some water. Now it doesn't matter what type of flour or bunny rabbit that you use. I'm just using plain flour because it's what I have and it's what I have to spare. You'll also need some water and a measuring cup. It doesn't matter what size measuring cup you use as long as you use the same one for the water and the flour. You will also need some bowls, one for mixing and one for balancing your balloon so it doesn't roll away. You will need some balloons. You will need some oil. If you have spray oil, fantastic. If you don't, just pour a little bit of liquid oil into a bowl and use a paintbrush to apply it to your balloon. This is to stop the paper mache sticking to our balloon. And most importantly, you will need some strips of newspaper. I just went down the street, got myself the Herald Sun, and after I finished reading it, I just ripped up the newspaper into about an inch thick and about a hand length strips of paper. All right, mum or dad or someone might already have a spare newspaper at home that you can use. And then very important, we will need some tea towels and some cloths just to wipe up any spills and to wipe up our hands when we need to. Alrighty, so you're not going to be seeing my face for this part because I need us to focus on how we make our paper mache mixture, keeping our area nice and tidy. You'll need your flour and your water. What I do is I'm using a 1/2 cup measuring cup. Doesn't matter what size you use as long as you use the same one for your flour and your water. So what I did is I measured out a 1/2 cup of flour and I put it in the bowl. Then I measure out a 1/2 cup of water and I put it in the bowl. Now I've already mixed up some, but you want to mix it up so that it looks a bit like pancake batter. It 100% will not taste like pancake batter because it is just flour and water, but that's what you want it to look like. I do not recommend tasting it. If you do get any on your hands or on your clothes, it is just water and flour, so it does come off. It dries a bit hard, but it does come off and it does not stain, which is fantastic. Alrighty, next thing I need to do is blow up my balloon. So I'm using a blue balloon. Now you want your balloon to be about the size of your head, alright? You don't want it to be too big or else this will take you a very long time to paper mache. But you don't want it to be too small, alright? So you can see mine is about the size of my head. Fantastic. I grab one of my little bowls so that it has something to balance in. Now what I need to do is take a black marker. Do not use a pen because a pen will pop our balloon. We don't want to do that. Just grab any marker that you have. It doesn't even have to be black, but something that's going to show up. Now what we need to do is grab our bit of oil in our bowl and our paintbrush, and we're just going to very lightly, it doesn't need to be dripping with oil, but we're going to brush the oil over the balloon. Now this is so that when it does dry up, when our paper mache dries, it is not going to stick to the balloon. It'll make it a little bit easier to let the air out of the balloon. Alright, I'm just going to do the top half, work on just half, and then once I finish that, I'm going to paper mache the bottom. Alright, let's get the things that we do not need out of our way. So we don't need the flour anymore. Alright, now I've got my mixture. I've got some newspaper down on the table to minimise the mess. And I've got my paper strips. What I need to do is I need to drag the strip of paper through the glue just on one side. So you just want to drag it across the top of the glue, hold it up with one hand, and with your other hand you're just going to drag your fingers gently down the strip of newspaper just to wipe off that excess glue. If there's too much glue on our newspaper, it will rip. Alright, we just want it to be wet. We don't want it to be dripping. And then what I can do is I can start smoothing that paper mache newsprint onto my balloon. And I'm starting up the top. We want it to be nice and flat. I'm starting up the top near my circle. And then we just keep doing that. Fantastic. Make sure you have oiled the areas that you are working on. I'm only working on the top half for now. So later on I would need to remember that I haven't oiled the bottom half. There we go. Now you can see that I'm not making the newspaper curve around the circle. I'm keeping the newspaper nice and flat, and as I'm working around the circle it is creating that shape. Going, dip into the glue, drag my fingers down carefully, wipe my fingers on the edge of the bowl, and keep going. Now you can see that my pieces of newspaper overlap. We want about 4 or 5 layers of paper mache to be on this balloon by the time we've finished, because if there's just one layer, it will be very easy to rip and break open. We want there to be a nice 4 or 5 layers. If you've forgotten how many layers you've done, just chuck on another layer. There is no maximum for how many layers you can do. And it is not meant to be a quick, oh, I've done this in 5 minutes task. So you can put on some music. You might have the TV on in the background. You might be chatting to someone. You might do this with your family. And just keep overlapping, having your paper mache going in different directions. To make it a little bit stronger, I might start making my pieces go down the balloon. Keep working on it that way. Now, a quick tip I want to show you is that when my balloon starts to get very top heavy, so I'm working on lots of paper mache up the top and there's nothing down the bottom, that's going to mean that the top is heavier. Right, so my balloon might start to slide down. We need to keep adjusting our balloon so that it's nice and balanced. Another tip I'd love to show you is if your paper mache is too dry and it's not sticking to your balloon, just dip your finger into the glue and smooth an extra amount of glue onto the newspaper. And if it is too gluey, if there's too much glue on your paper mache balloon, and you can see I've got lots of glue there, you can get a piece of newspaper and instead of wetting it in the glue, just put it straight onto the balloon and you'll see that it instantly absorbs up that extra glue. All right, fantastic. So remember, we just want our paper mache to be wet, not dripping, not falling apart because it's so wet. We don't want to be able to see tons and tons of glue on our balloon. Now, good thing I've got a cloth nearby, I can wipe my fingers. Once I have finished with my balloon, so here's the one I'm working on with you. Here's the one that I was working on the other day. So you can see that I've gone right around my balloon about 4 or 5 times. I've let it dry for about 2 or 3 days. It does take a long time to dry. There are some bits where I can push in my balloon. That tells me that there's not enough paper mache in those bits. There are some parts where it's very hard and I can feel it's very hard. That's what we want. So once it's dry, if there's any bits that you can feel are a little bit weaker under your fingers, you can always put some extra bits of paper mache on there if you still have some glue. that you've wrapped up. And next week I will show you how we remove our balloon out of the paper mache casing. Don't try and pop it. If it pops accidentally, that's okay, but don't try and pop it because you don't want to make a big mess. We don't want to hurt ourselves. We don't want to crack or rip our paper mache balloon. What we're going to do is we're going to slowly let the air out. So I will show you how to do that next week when we start to work on painting our paper mache balloon. Alright, so make sure you go all the way around 4 or 5 times. That's the most important thing, because we would hate to get to the end of creating our beautiful artwork and it to just rip or fall apart or bend. My goodness, we don't want a bent one. I hope everyone has had a lot of fun this week. Next week we'll work on painting. I'll show you how to make some paint if you do not already have paint. So next week's going to be very fun. It's also going to be a bit messy. And if you have not joined in our paper mache task, do not worry, there'll be another task for you to do next week as well. Nobody misses out on our art classes. Alright, I hope everyone's having a lot of fun this week. I hope everyone's enjoying their lessons, and I hope you've had fun making some paper mache.